It's really interesting to me to hear a lot of people talk about racism right now in 2021. And you can tell a lot of people are speaking out of a lack of experience. They have no idea what racism could feel like. So a lot of them say that it's impossible for a white man to experience racism. And I believe that could be because racism is such a foreign concept for a lot of them that they could never really understand what that feels like or why someone would go through it, other than to quote the obvious experience, which is there was slavery. Slavery led to racism. That's what they know of because that's what's spoken about and discussed the most in America. But the first time I ever experienced racism was in the third grade. I was raised by a single mother in a poor area. We didn't have much at all. My mother worked 3 jobs to support us. And I was going to a summer camp. And we were getting onto the bus. And I was more of the minority there. There weren't a lot of white kids in the camp. It was, I believe it was like a community-run camp for underprivileged kids. And I was getting onto the bus, and I just remember being pulled down by my backpack, thrown onto the ground, and just kicked and stomped. And feet stepping on my face and on my stomach. And turns out it was 3 older black girls that pulled me off the bus. And they were yelling at me for being the poor, skinny white kid. And I didn't even realize at the time, at least, that it was racially motivated because I wasn't raised that way. I was raised in a black community around a lot of people, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, everything. And my mother didn't raise me to care about color. You know, it's impossible to say I don't see color. I don't understand that. We all see color. And that's okay. We're supposed to see color because we're all different colors, so it's going to be there. But it shouldn't mean anything, right? The color of our skin, our race shouldn't mean anything. But we're all different colors because we're the whole spectrum. And that's the beauty of God's creations. So I was pulled off the bus, brought down, stomped, etc. And I tell my mom, not once did she mention anything about race. But my memories lived on, and I knew that experience happened because I was the poor, skinny white kid. But, and this is where I share something that only my mother and my wife know. That same week, just a few days later, we were getting ready to go to the pool. And I had to go to the bathroom while everybody else was getting onto the bus. And I remember the aides, the adults, asking a high school-aged boy, a white boy, if it matters, to take me to the bathroom before we get onto the bus. So he takes me into the bathroom. He gets in front of me. He pulls his pants down. And he tells me to do him a favor. Now, I was raised to know better than that. I was raised to know stranger danger. I was raised to know when an adult was trying to hurt a child, because my mother was very, very protective. God bless her. I just remember feeling ashamed. I ran onto the bus. I put my head down, and I remember just trying not to cry. Then I remember this kid's voice in my ear saying, "Don't tell anyone." Turns out he had sat down across the aisle on the bus. And eventually I told my mother, it was that week I told my mother, so she knew both of those situations that happened at that summer camp. And of course she felt terrible. But what she taught me after those 2 experiences had nothing to do with race. She never once mentioned Black girls, white boy. It wasn't even a thing. It was, there are screwed up people everywhere. And ultimately, we're all screwed up, aren't we? We're all messed up in our own ways. But it's the ones who can't admit it that tend to be the most messed up. But my point is, as a white man, that was only the first experience of racism that I went through in my life. And I can tell you that I experienced at least 5, 6, 7 more. Some of them got pretty violent. Some of them got very violent. But I love my brothers and sisters in the black community just as much, if not even a little more, than other communities, because when my life got tough, I was received with open arms from everyone in the black community my whole life. And some of my greatest friends to this day are black, Hispanic, Asian. Racism is probably the stupidest concept ever. It's just fear. It's fear. There are certain things that certain ethnic groups do that outline them more and define them more than others, yes. But that has nothing to do with skin color. It has to do with culture. Because in that culture, there are different skin tones, depending on demographic, geographical location, religion, all these different things. So in 2021, how are we ever going to let go of racism? We need to start.